Hello, Happy New Year to you all. In today's video we are looking at my top 5 lenses of 2020. Are these the best lenses I own? Probably not, but these are lenses bought in 2020 and I've probably seen either the most use or have had the biggest impact on me in terms of most impressed during the last 12 months. Stay with me, we'll go through 5 different lenses and then I'll also give some kind of honorary mentions to a few additional lenses to kind of cover a larger group. So we may cover as many as 10 lenses, but 5 main lenses, maybe 5-ish extra lenses. As you guys probably know, there's just too many lenses to narrow it down. So yes, hello, Matt from MrLeica.com, and let's get started. So the top 5 lenses are in no particular order, but some lenses are maybe higher in the top 5 than others. So with that said, the lens that impressed me the most in 2020 is a lens that I've already reviewed, and that is the fantastic Canon 50mm f1.8 LTM lens. This is a version 2 as I understand. 2020 for me was the year of the LTM lenses. And I guess just to backtrack slightly to explain myself, I think I discovered more amazing lenses in 2020 than in my entire 10 years of photography, 10 plus years of photography to date. Up until the end of 2019, I'd generally been buying kind of what was recommended or what was popular in terms of the current M lenses for like, as you know, I shoot digital Leica cameras and various film cameras, but a lot of Leica film cameras as well. So until the end of 2019, I'd always just bought what the media almost kind of shows you, like what was popular, which tended to be current M-mount lenses. So I've gone through kind of my 7-8 years of Leica shooting and pretty much just bought whatever lenses seemed to be best sold to me, if that makes sense. It makes me sound a bit of a dumbass in kind of retrospect, but I just bought whatever was kind of pushed to me in terms of what I should be buying. So it was all the general lenses which every probably M shooter buys, or every M shooter which likes to have a few lenses likes to buy. I was doing a lot of weddings at the time, so I was using the money from the weddings to buy the best glass I could in my mind to give the clients the best images. So things like the Summilux 50mm 1.4 spherical, 28mm Elmarit, 90mm f4 macro Elmar, Noctilux 50mm f1. They're all very much kind of standard-ish in terms of the like M range. And then at the end of 2019 and then all through 2020, I've kind of dug myself a deeper and deeper gas hole. And the problem is, as you guys probably know, knowledge is a really bad thing, because the more you know, the more you realise there are amazing lenses out there, and then the more you go digging for them, and then the more information you get, and it's kind of a vicious circle of you absorbing more and more and more information from kind of watching YouTube videos and from reading vintage posts on like the internet, old forums, things like that, and eventually you realise there's an absolute ton of amazing glass out there. You just need to try and find it at a reasonable price on eBay. And so all through 2020 I've collected quite a number of very nice lenses which I didn't even know existed in 2019, and in particular they include LTM lenses. So with that kind of background information covered, now let's jump forward to January 2020, and I was really kind of starting to pick up LTM lenses, like a thread mount lenses or like a screw mount lenses, mainly because I just started shooting with Barnack Leicas and none of my M lenses fitted the new Barnack Leicas which I was using, so I needed lenses. And that was kind of my gas excuse to start shopping around for some nice lenses, hopefully at a good price. So if we're talking LTM, good price, compact to fit a Barnack Leica, you don't want a lens which is oversized on a small camera, in my mind. Basically the best optics I could find for like a thread mount, and the 50mm 1.8 Canon ticks every box. I've made a small list here. Small, light, cheap, sharp. And the only real negative, it has a close focus distance of 1 meter. And as a portrait photographer, sometimes I like to get in a bit closer. I have already done a review of this lens, and I'll link all the mentioned reviews below this video so you can click on them if you've not already seen them. If you have already seen those videos, just to point out, I still highly rate this lens, even some months or whenever I did that video. The only reason I'm probably not shooting with it at the moment is because I'm trying to test more lenses to show you guys. So it's had to have kind of a break while I've tested more lenses, which I've not yet shared with you. Lens number 1, Canon 50mm f1.8 Leica screw mount. So that was LTM. Lens number 2 is M mount. But in contrast to all the M mount lenses which I already owned, I'd always really done the done thing, or the dumb thing is probably a better way to say it. I just did whatever was marketed to me at that time, and being a kind of newish to photography, I just kind of towed the line and did probably what other people do that were new to Leicas. Now 2020, armed with a lot more knowledge and a lot more kind of questions in my mind, I went looking for other lenses. So originally for lens number 2, I had really bad gas for gear acquisition syndrome, if you're new to this term of photography. I really wanted to buy the Leica Summicron 50mm f2, but I didn't really want to pay the cost. And then just by chance at that time, I bought a Leica CL 35mm film camera. And if you do any reading around the Leica CL, also known as the Minolta CL or the Minolta CLE, you may then discover this lens. Now, as I say, I discovered this lens when looking for my Leica CL versus CLE kind of research. And it was just perfect timing because I'd been looking for the 35 f2 M lens, and this is a 40mm f2 M lens. So this is the Minolta M-Rock 40mm f2 version 2. I could have bought the Leica Summicron 40mm f2C, but this is said to have better flare control and I like my contrast, so I picked up this lens. This lens is just so light, it transforms an M camera in terms of an M mount camera, in terms of a really enjoyable lightweight setup. So because I use both LTM lenses and M lenses on my Leica CL digital camera and Leica M240, this lens saw a huge amount of use in 2020, because if you put it on a Leica CL, for any of you Leica CL shooters, you'll appreciate small lenses. This lens is both compact and really lightweight, yet optically it's really kind of hits the mark as well. Check my list is what I said for this lens. So unlike the Canon lens we just looked at, which was a 1950s lens, this is around a 1980s lens. And I listed it as small, light and affordable. And when I say affordable, it's affordable in Leica M mount terms. Compare the price to most Leica M glass and you'll be really impressed with how much cheaper the Minolta lens is. Again, I've already done a review for this lens, so I will include that in the description below this video. Lens number 2, Minolta 40mm. And I guess for completeness, close focus distance 0.8 meters, which is almost 0.7 meters, which is kind of the standard for modern M glass. Okay, lens number 3. Okay, so lens number 1 and lens number 2 were both compact, reasonably affordable, sharp enough to use wide open for portraits, and they don't really render the images anything particularly special. They just do a nice enough job at a decent price. Lens number 3 is slightly different. Lens number 3 is the lens I gave a shout out to recently in a 50mm shootout video. I don't know if you can see the writing on the top. This is the 1930s, I believe 1939, Leica Scimitar 50mm or 5cm f2 collapsible lens. You have to take the cap off to see it collapse. So there you can see the lens collapsed and extended. So like the first lens, this is also like a thread mount lens, and I also discovered it when looking for lenses for the Barnack Leicas. I also discovered it after testing the Leica Thambar 90mm, I think it's Thambar, Leica Thambar 90mm f2.2 lens, and that lens gave me a real taste for soft rendering optics. I was so used to super sharp, and that kind of made me realise that sometimes soft can be quite nice. I then found this lens, and so the reason this lens is in my top 5 is because it's kind of 2 lenses in one. If you stop this lens down slightly, it's super sharp in the centre, and then if you shoot it wide open, so in digital, you tend to get a real nice kind of glow effect and kind of really unusual kind of bokeh and kind of rendering in the out of focus areas, which to my eyes is quite unusual and kind of different to many of my lenses. So this is in my top 5 because it produces interesting images. It's very good for kind of female portraits where they have less perfect skin and they kind of appreciate a kind of a softer rendering. And as I say, it's 2 lenses in one. Stop down, it's really sharp. It'll be as sharp as the Canon, which is a sharp lens, if they're both stopped down to say f2.8, f3.2 in this case. And I'm sure you guys will all agree with me, one thing we like as photographers is finding a lens which kind of, how to say, draws differently, renders differently from kind of the crappy modern off-the-shelf modern lenses. I'm not saying that modern Leica lenses are terrible, but they will be kind of more clinical. For example, the Summilux 51.4 it's a super sharp lens, but it will give you exactly kind of what you see in my experience. This will give you something much more arty than what you'll see. So it's more of an art lens, wide open, stop it down slightly, and you get the best of both. It's kind of super sharp and a little bit creamy at the outside, if you get the idea. 1930s lens, so more difficult to find, and I still need to review this lens. A review of this lens will come in 2021, and if you stay to the end of the video, I'll list some of the videos that will be coming in 2021. So stay tuned, and I'll do, spoiler alert, I'll tell you some of the things which will be coming this year. Lens number 3. Now the first 3 lenses all fit Leica cameras, and that's probably what you guys may expect. So I have a MrLeica.com blog and call myself Mr. Leica on social media, things like that. The next 2 lenses are not Leica mount. So you're like, interesting, perhaps. What are you thinking? Maybe Nikon? I'm pretty sure nobody can guess the next 2 lenses. One lens, absolutely, you definitely won't guess because I never mention it. Lens number 4. This is a really nice lens. And sadly, it won't fit in my Leicas. So I have to use lesser cameras, one may argue, to make the most of the lens. Those camera reviews will also come in 2021, so there's lots of exciting stuff to come. Okay, cutting to the point, lens number 4 is the amazing Zeiss Opton Biogon 35mm f2.8. And as you can see, the rear lens cap is larger than the actual lens itself. This lens is a Contax RF mount lens. So for any of you guys that shoot Leica in like a Leica bubble, like I was till, as I say, 2020, you'll be like, oh what? So let me explain. This lens fits a different system altogether. It won't fit your Nikons, it won't fit your Canons, it won't fit your Leicas. Little star. It will if you buy a really expensive adapter, but they are expensive, so I don't own one. So as you can see, the rear element, which would be inside the camera body, is absolutely huge, but that makes the lens kind of sticking out the body quite compact. Why is this lens so amazing? Well, firstly, I'm not trying to make anybody buy any lenses, but if you do kind of off the back of this video go and try and buy this lens, be really careful, because I had to learn the hard way as usual, and I bought the wrong lens the first time. So I now have 2 35mm Zeiss Biogon Contax RF mount lenses. There's the Opton version, which will fit the majority of Contax RF mount cameras, which is the later version, which, believe it or not, has the smaller rear element. This is the small rear element. And then there is the non-Opton Biogon version, which doesn't have numbers on the front. I'll cover this in a separate review this year. And that lens is so big on the back, it doesn't fit the majority of the cameras that you would expect these lenses to fit. So I had to buy twice. So even after all my research, I still kind of screwed up. So be careful if you're going to look to buy this lens. Why is this lens so amazing? I like the compact size, although it is really heavy. It's probably, I bet it's 2 times heavier than the Minolta, to give you some idea. It's really disappointing that I can't use it on my Leicas, as I say, unless I get a really special expensive adapter. So I have to use it on other cameras which I've not yet shared with you. But the rendering is just like fantastic. It's one of the best lenses in terms of sharp, contrast-free, micro contrast, blah, 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 all the other nice words that come out when you talk about lenses. It's really special. It must be special because you know when you post a picture to social media and suddenly everyone's kind of eyes open and they're like, regardless of how pretty the girl is. Some lenses just seem to have that effect. The last lens we looked at, the Summilux, that can create images which seem to catch people's eye because they can see it as something different. It's not an off-the-shelf, standard, boring, 50mm f1.8 G lens, which I own, but just saying, that's a standard lens to give you standard results. This is a different lens to give you different results. Equally, this lens also seems to catch people's attention, or the resulting images, and I liked it and other people seem to like it, so it seems to do something more special than your average lens. So I will do a proper review on this when I've shot with it more. The reason I shoot with it less at the moment is because, one, it's heavier than most of my Leica lenses. And you know what I'm like, I'm always like checking every gram when I'm traveling. I just need to like give it a rest and take some heavy lenses which do a good job. So I do need to take this with me at some point. And secondly, it doesn't fit my Leica, so I'm using it less because the other cameras are not as favoured as my Leica cameras. So that's lens number 4. Okay, lens number 5, again, this is not a Leica mount lens. This is a lens you may have seen if you watch most of my videos. It is the Nikkor SC 50mm f1.4 Nikon S mount. So as you can see, the lens mount is totally different to kind of what you see with Leicas. And this will not fit your Leicas the same as the last lens. Again, unless you use a special adapter, which I don't have. Why is this lens special? This lens fits the Nikon S2, which I've already done a review of. So to see some example photos, I'll link So to see some example images, I'll link the Nikon S2 video below this, because all the photos in that video were shot with this lens. This lens, like the last lens again, is kind of annoying in a way that it draws completely differently to seemingly all my Leica lenses. And that's really annoying, because if I had this in Leica mount, then I wouldn't need to faff around with these lesser cameras which I keep mentioning. You know, I'm pro Leica, but there is a good reason. The rangefinder patch in the S2 is rubbish, for example. Okay, so why is this lens special? It's special because it draws differently to my Leica lenses. By that I mean the bokeh is totally different. I'm sure there might be Leica lenses which may draw in a similar way, and any of you guys which have got a bigger brain than me, feel free to remind me below which lenses you think may do a similar job to this lens. This is a minimum focus distance of 1 meter, the same as the last 2 lenses. The only one which goes close to 1 meter in this review is the Minolta. So I really must like these lenses, because that's one negative against all of them already, because I like to focus closer. But sometimes if a lens is that good in terms of how it draws, then you just have to take the negatives to appreciate the positives, if that makes sense. So it's sharp, wide open, if you can now focus. The out of focus background is fantastic, and it's just totally different to my Leica lenses from memory. And for that reason, it makes me want to shoot this lens, because it gives me a very different rendered image to what I normally see with all my normal glass. And I've got quite a few, so that makes this lens quite special. Now, there is a but. You can actually get this lens in Leica thread mount, but one, they're quite expensive, and two, they're very difficult to find in decent condition. Where the advantage is, if you buy a Nikon S mount version, you can get a really minty one like this at a fraction of the cost. The only downside is, as I say, you need to use it on a non-Leica camera, or get the adapter as already mentioned. So lens number 5, why is it in my top 5? Because it does something special that most of my lenses can't do, and that is create seemingly very interesting looking photos from potentially something that's not very interesting, which is always kind of a big tick in the box for me. Okay, so that was my quick rambling of my top 5 lenses of 2020. I will do reviews of the lenses not yet reviewed, and for those I have reviewed, as I say, I'll link them below. Now, I'm sure some of you are shouting at your monitors and saying, but there are way better lenses than the ones you just mentioned, and you do own them. So time to give some honorary mentions to some other lenses. A lens that maybe should be in my top 5 is the Canon 50mm f1.4 LTM. I've not yet done enough testing, and the review is still to follow, and it will definitely come in the next 2 or 3 months, maybe less than that if I get around to it. So Canon 50mm 1.4, very nice lens. It can give a soft, dreamy look, but equally it can be nice and sharp, stop down slightly. Good lens, slightly too big for me, but it's all relative. Compared to normal lenses, it's very compact, so take that with a pinch of salt. Honorary mention number 1. Honorary mention number 2, if you want a fast 35mm lens, I would say look no further than the Canon 35mm LTM lenses. I own the 1.8 and I've just ordered a f2. So I'm interested to see how the 35mm f2 Canon LTM compares to, say, the Voigtlander Scope-R 35 f2.5. You know what I'm like, I like small lenses, but also enjoy fast lenses on film cameras because sometimes you need that light to take your pictures, especially in kind of dark, damp Europe in the winter months, as I go on about in other videos. So if you're looking for a fast 35mm, I would definitely look at either the 1.8 or the f2. The 1.8 gives a slightly more vintage look, slightly softer, lower contrast, and the f2 more modern, but I don't think it's quite as modern as the Scope-R. So I know a lot of you guys commented on my Scope-R 35 f2.5 video and said you either bought it or you enjoy it. And so I would say Scope-R here in terms of very modern, very sharp. I'd say Canon 35 f2 here, slightly less modern, slightly less sharp is my expectation based on reading, results to be confirmed. Canon 35 1.8, slightly less contrast, slightly less modern, slightly less sharp would be kind of my summary. But a really nice lens, really nice and small. So that's kind of honorary mention number 2 if you're looking for a fast 35mm lens. Again, these are LTM mount lenses, so you will need an adapter to fit them onto your, say, M-mount camera. Where have we got up to? Honorary mention number 3 is a lens you guys keep asking me to review, and I promise it will come. I just need to use it more, and the reason I don't use it as much as I should is it's not really a ideal portrait lens. That is the Voigtlander Heliar 50mm f3.5. I have both versions of that lens. I have the LTM version and the M-mount. I will do a review on that video, so stay with me. It could potentially be in my top 5 because it is very, very sharp with very nice micro contrast. I just need to use it more. And so for that reason, maybe it'll be in my top 5 2021. So that lens is coming up, honorary mention number 3. And then for honorary mention 4 and 5, I have the cameras to show you firsthand. So I realise I've not mentioned any SLR lenses as yet. For me, 2020, as I say, was really a year of the LTM mount cameras and lenses, screw mount cameras. So Nikon kind of took a little bit of a backseat. I was kind of more Nikon in 2019. The second half of 2019, I was kind of playing around with a lot of Nikon stuff. But Nikon stuff I'm also getting back into now with testing different cameras, which again will be more videos for you guys in 2021. So honorary mention number 4 for the Nikon shooters. My favourite Nikon lens, or my most used Nikon lens. There are obviously many great Nikon lenses, but this is based on the lens does the job for me, and for that reason it's my most used lens. It wasn't bought in 2020, but I feel I should give it a mention anyway. So honorary mention lens number 4 is the Voigtlander Ultron 40mm f2 SL2. And as you can see, I've got it here on a Nikon FE2 SLR. And the reason it's my kind of most used lens on these cameras is it is super sharp, wide open, and it's my smallest Nikon mount lens. So for that reason, as you may expect, if I want to take a small Nikon setup, this is the lens I'm going to take because it competes with the Leica glass in terms of optical performance to my eyes, and then it makes the camera body reasonably similar to the size of a Leica M-mount camera with a Summilux lens, a reasonably big lens. So honorary mention, fantastic lens. If you're a Nikon shooter, highly recommend this lens. I've reviewed this lens recently in my SL mount video, so I'll link that below if you missed it. And finally, honorary mention number 5. This may go against my, any confidence you have in me in terms of being a Leica shooter, liking potentially expensive lenses and expensive cameras. If you know me well enough, you know I try to spend as little money as possible. But with all that said, lens number 5 is kind of against the Leica kind of the general Leica man approach. Lens number 5, I'm already laughing, is the Minolta 45mm f2 lens. This is the MD version 3. Why is this lens in my honorary mention top 5? Because it is so light. It is absolutely ridiculously light, and yet it's sharp enough to shoot with wide open. I'd say I think the Ultron, which is a much heavier lens and a much more expensive lens, I think this has the edge in terms of I think this is sharper with better contrast. if you're kind of a pixel peeper. I've already done a review of this camera, which is the Minolta X300. So if you want to see some photos from this lens, check out the Minolta X300 video. If you've accidentally stumbled across this channel and you don't shoot Leicas, you haven't got the money to spend hundreds of pounds on lenses, check out the Minolta X300 video. This will get you shooting film for kind of the least money and produce images that you will be happy with and kind of better than most kit lenses from my experience. As I say, it's the X300, and often you can get this lens with the camera when you buy the camera. So I had to mention it because it's almost too good to be true for kind of the performance of this lens for the price. Very good lens if you want a very cheap setup, which is really nice and light. Excuse the rattling. Right, so that was my top 5 lenses and top 5 honorary mentioned lenses. Obviously there are hundreds of amazing lenses out there, so I tried to pick the lenses which I use the most in 2020, and that's kind of my roundup. Feel free to drop me your comments below. What is your favourite lens of 2020? What lens do you know I don't own potentially and you think I should own? I really shouldn't be saying this because I really shouldn't be buying any more lenses, but if you know of a certain lens which you think is kind of a hidden gem, kind of whisper it to me quietly and I'll try and find one before everybody else finds it. But yeah, jokes aside, let me know your best lenses. I'm always open to ideas and I'm learning the same as you guys. I'm just an average guy learning for myself, and I've kind of had the privilege to be able to buy quite a few lenses, so it's given me kind of the position I guess I'm in today where I can then share the information back to you. All I've done is done lots of reading online and kind of bought lenses to work out which ones were good lenses, which ones were not so good lenses. Okay, enough rambling on lenses. Before I finish, as promised, what is coming up in 2021? Excuse me while I check my list so I don't forget anything. 2021, we have more LTM lens reviews coming up. I don't want to think, more than 10 LTM lenses, maybe 15, not sure exactly, from 50mm through to now 90mm. And I think I've only done 2 or 3 LTM lens videos, but I've also done some M-mount videos where I include LTM and M-mount versions of the same lens. So check out Series 2 lens videos if you want to see LTM lenses for, say, any Threadmat cameras. Number 1, more LTM lenses. Number 2, more M-mount lenses. Now I have reviewed, I think, more than 20 M-mount lenses already, so I don't have that many left of my own personally, but I'm lucky enough that I was working with Voigtlander UK, who kindly lent me the 40mm 1.2 and 50mm 1.2 at the end of 2020, which I reviewed, and I'm very happy to say that there are more lens reviews coming from Voigtlander, so stay tuned. If you're not yet subscribed, feel free to hit the subscribe button so not to miss those. They should be out in January. And I guess another quick mention, as we're talking about Voigtlander lenses, why are the Voigtlander 40-1.2 and 50-1.2 not in my top 5? The main reason, the 50mm 1.2 is too big for me. For my personal taste, you probably know me enough by now. If you see my videos, I really like compact small lenses. And the 40mm 1.2 is similar to my 35 1.2, but I'd probably use the 35 if I'm honest, because the 35 on my Leica CL gives me roughly a 50mm equivalent focal length. So at some point I'll do my favourite lens, the Leica CL, and then it probably will be a Voigtlander. But just to cover that point, if anybody's thinking, but he tested an amazing Voigtlander lens, why is it not in his top 5? So that's the reason. 1, I've not used it enough. 2, I don't really own it, so I probably can't say it's in my top 5. And 3, I prefer super small lenses. Yeah, sorry, more M-mount lenses to come, lens reviews. I have the Summicron, off the top of my head, I've got the Summicron 28mm f2 spherical. I've got the Voigtlander Ultron 28mm M-mount. I've got the Voigtlander Helios 50mm f3.5 already mentioned. So there's at least, how many is that? At least 3 M-mount lenses of my own lenses, plus anything I'm lucky enough to get from other suppliers, including the Voigtlander that I've already mentioned. Okay, what else? I also have Nikon gear to come. I've got Nikon cameras, and then obviously as an ex-Nikon shooter, I also own quite a few Nikon lenses. So depending on how the channel kind of grows and in which direction it's going, potential I can do more Nikon lens videos. So drop me a message if you want more Nikon kind of videos. If you want my Patreon, you know I've been playing around with some Nikon SLR cameras when I was in Poland. I'll mention Patreon again in a second because I need to say thanks. So I've got how many? I've got at least 3 Nikon SLR videos to come, and I'm potentially planning 4, plus then lenses kind of off the back of that. So, and then I'm tempted to do some kind of shootout things, and I've got a few kind of cool ideas going on in my head, mainly for my own interest. I want to know what's the best. So I'm buying things to do the testing to then share with you guys, because I find it quite interesting, and hopefully you will too. So Nikon stuff is definitely coming. What else? I still have quite a few medium format cameras not yet tested, and by medium format, I know in the past medium format automatically meant film, but now obviously in the modern era, medium format also means digital. I'm talking about medium format film cameras. So I have quite a few medium format film cameras not yet shared. The one I particularly want to share with you is the Fuji GF670. I do need to do a review for that camera. And then I've also got some cool cameras like the Hasselbladsky, for those of you that want a Soviet version of a Hasselblad. Again, a very cool camera. So medium format is still to come. And finally, for all of you completely sick of the 35mm overload from 2020, would you like me to share with you my large format cameras? Or did you know I even shoot large format? So I have 3 large format cameras. I have a SpeedGraphic with an Aerorector lens, which if you know anything about large format, that is quite a nice lens. It's an absolute beast of a lens. Very nice piece of glass for portraits. I have a Sinar, I think that's how you pronounce it, Sinar F2. I think that's right. I've not looked at it for a while. And then I've got a Intrepid. For if you live in the UK, you probably, well, even outside the UK now, the Intrepids have got very popular in the last few years. They're kind of folding wooden cameras. So that's 3 very different large format cameras for different applications. One's great for climbing, one's great for studio, one's great for very shallow depth of field portraits in its current kind of form. So if you'd like me to do some large format, I will try and do some in 2021. I was thinking of maybe doing some kind of walkabout trips with kind of tripod and large format out in the field with the Intrepid, and I need to get the SpeedGraphic repaired before I share that with you because the shutter's sticking, but that will come also, and then once I get that working again, I can then do some kind of new portraits with it and show you how that kind of part of the world works. Sorry, I filled my memory card, so that's obvious time to shut up. So yes, 35mm Leicas and Nikon and maybe other things, maybe more Minolta stuff. Medium format cameras, film, and large format film, all to come in 2021. So if any of that sounds of interest to you and you're not yet subscribed, feel free to subscribe. On the back of yesterday's video where I kind of introduced some of you to Patreon, or kind of gave it a bit more of an explanation. Thank you so much for everybody that kind of joined up to Patreon in the last kind of 24 hours. It was really great to see some of the recognised names from the YouTube comments to come and join the Patreon kind of team or experience, call it what you'd like. So thank you so much for checking out Patreon. And that's it. I hope you found the lens overview useful and my quick ramble on what's to come for 2021. Thank you so much if you lasted till the end of the video, and more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching, and see you back here soon for the next video. Bye.